Hey there, this is Eric, and welcome to another episode of Skateboarding California. So this episode is going to be a review of ProTec Pro Kneepads compared to a bunch of other kneepads. Let's take a look at the ProTec website for the Pro Pad Kneepads and see what we have here. So as for the marketing features, it does have the D30 foam, which is a legitimate thing to call out. I don't think any of the competition uses the D30, and if we do a search on the D30 foam, we can see that there is a website for it that talks all about how this stuff works and what sort of products are used with the D30, all these other brands that use it. So it is interesting stuff, and it's basically this non-Newtonian gel that is kind of soft and squishy in its normal state, but when it has a hard impact, it stiffens up and becomes more solid, and thereby dispersing the impact and protecting the person wearing it. Then we also see there are Kevlar stretch panels, which is actually right above the kneecap and right below the top lame. So that Kevlar, is obviously a very strong material, and it's something that I like about the older Pro-Tecs, that they use really good materials other than just the plain old nylon. Here are durable suede panels. There's suede on the bottom, a little bit of suede on the top, and again, I saw from the old Pro-Tec drop-ins that the suede really does last. Improved replaceable caps. It's it's no point in having a replaceable cap if you can't find the replacements. So Pro-Tec doesn't sell like the old replacement caps, which really kind of stinks, because I would love to get caps for my older knee pads, but as long as they continue to actually make some, that's pretty cool. Team tested design, of course, that's meaningless. Reusable carrying bag. Yeah, it comes with a mesh bag that's like really cheap, and I don't really see the point. I just throw these in a regular gear bag. I don't need a separate bag. Washable. I mean, everything is washable as long as you can take the foam out, so that doesn't really mean much either. But yeah, there you go. There's what they're promoting on the website. Let's take a closer look at the design of these knee pads. So right here, you can see as we kind of spin around, this top part right here is articulated really nicely. And that really helps when you're actually wearing the knee pad for it to conform to your leg a little bit more. Because when your knee is sitting in here, there's no pressure point against your thigh. This thing is actually called a lame, and that comes from that term comes from medieval armor. So, little history lesson for you. On medieval armor, the kneecap is called the polene, and the articulated parts above and below the knee are called the lame. So that's what that part is called on the knee pad. Right in here, we have a bit of Kevlar, which is the articulation point of the lame. And then if we look here, we can see there's some suede on the bottom, and that's really nice. The old Pro-Tec drop-in pads had a lot of suede, and that kind of holds up really well, and it's just a nice material to use for the knee pads because it's pretty rugged and yet pretty soft at the same time. Here you can see there's some nice stitching all around. We've got some double-seamed stitching, which is covered up pretty decently. The cap is not really big, but it's about, it's about as big as you need it to be. A little smaller than the original drop-ins. And then right here you see the tab for the D30, which is the non-Newtonian gel that they use as part of the padding. And the idea behind any kind of non-Newtonian gel in safety gear is that when it is impacted by something, it hardens up, and that helps to disperse the impact. And then right here we can see we also have some suede on the main strap. And when you open up the main strap and this top Velcro, you can see right here the Velcro goes all the way across, which is really great because as the strap breaks in and it starts to wear out, you can still stretch it all the way across. And the back straps are a fantastic design too, because you'll notice right here, so the male side with the hard plastic of the Velcro is a rather small tab, but the female side with the fabric takes up the entire back side of the neoprene, right? So this whole back side can stick to that little Velcro tab, which is really a cool design because, again, this means as the pads get older and that neoprene starts to stretch, you're still going to be able to pull this over and always attach the back strap, right? It's as it gets worn in, you're always going to have an attachment point. So that's really, really cool. And then the bottom strap right here, again, nice heavy nylon, and the Velcro goes all the way across, which is a great design because as it stretches out, you'll always be able to pull it tight. And then right here you can see there's a little plastic loop, and I really like these kind of designs where it's just a very simple design with just a single loop where the strap kind of threads through there. And then right here, the back strap for the bottom is just like the top, where we've got fabric on one side and then we have the Velcro tab on the other side, so as it stretches, it's always going to be able to attach to that attachment point. So really good design. And then right here, you can see this right here is this little seam. As you pull up in that, inside there is the pads, so that's how you can take the pads out from the bottom. And then right here, sewn in to the back side of the lame, there's some more padding, which also helps to, reinforce and keep that articulation point. So again, it's very comfortable to have a lame at the top of these knee pads. And here you can see the edge stitching around the neoprene of the back straps is really nice, good quality stitching all the way around. And the edges will, prevent the edges from fraying like they did on some of the older pads by putting all that stitching around there. And then right here we can see the tag, and the tag does a good job of indicating the left and right knee pad, because sometimes you forget which one's the left one and which one's the right one. So you got a tag right there on each, so you know which side is which. So that kind of gives you a good overview of what these pads are like, and I really like them a lot. I think it's overall a really excellent design. And let's put the pads on and see how they fit. So I find that for pretty much every brand of pads, I'm most comfortable with extra large. And when I put these on, some people like to put the pads on sitting down. Some people put them on standing up. I put them on standing up. First thing I'll do is put on the top back strap and tighten that down. And then I put on the bottom back strap and pull that tight. And then I will do the top Velcro strap, get that on there, and then kind of fish through that bottom strap through the loop and pull that tight. And yeah, really comfortable. I like the way that these things articulate. And if you notice that the lame articulates really well and the pad is pretty much over the kneecap. Now let me kind of adjust these here a little bit, straighten them out a little bit more. But they do stay in place really well. And as I bend my leg, you can see how much the pad itself kind of bends and conforms to the ergonomics of my leg. So as I straighten out, they're still moving with me, and that articulation point moves and keeps the pad right over the kneecap, which is exactly where you want it to be. So that lame is a really important feature for knee pads to have. So, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of cruise around the pool and get a feel for what they're like just riding, you know, normal flat ground. I like these a lot. They're very comfortable. They feel a lot like the old ProTec drop-ins. They feel almost exactly the same. There's no pressure points. There's no nothing. It's all, yeah, it's pretty comfortable. They feel really good. They're really tight. I mean, not bad tight, not like cutting off your circulation, but I mean tight in the sense that they don't feel like they're going to move on you. So that's pretty cool. Let's do a quick size comparison between some of these competing pads. So the first ones are the ProTec drop-ins. I love these knee pads. I have literally ridden these things at least once or twice a week for probably 7 years. And you can see they're still actually in really great condition. Now, this little chip here did come out of the kneecap, but that was, you know, like a month ago that happened. Everything else on those pads has held up fantastic for hundreds of knee slides. I mean, they're really phenomenal. Then right here we have ProDesigned, another one of my absolute favorite pads. You can see they have a lame on the top and the bottom. And then right here, this is the pads that we are really focused on in this review. These are the ProTec Pro Line knee pads. And then next up, we have the 187 killer pads. And you can see the kneecap is a little bit larger on these, but there isn't a lame on the 187s, so the articulation isn't all that great. And the same thing applies to S1. They don't have a lame, so the articulation kind of suffers on the S1 pads. But this kind of gives you a good idea of the size of each and how the kneecaps are different sizes. You know, these ProTecs definitely have the smallest of all the kneecaps, but they still work pretty well. So this gives you a good idea of how big a bunch of extra larges are from these companies. So let's just take a run and see how they feel when we're actually skating them. Just like the old drop-in pads that I skated for years, these new ProTecs are fantastic in any kind of terrain. Some of the pads that don't have a good lame and they don't articulate properly, they are only comfortable when you skate them on transition and your knees are actually bent. But the ProTecs are awesome under any conditions. And I lost a wind muff on my mic, so let me go grab that. Let's try to measure the thickness of the pad here. And this isn't really easy to do because of the curvature of everything, but the D30 is about 1 centimeter and the other foam is about 2 centimeters thick. So again, it's kind of difficult to tell because the way that the curvature of everything is, but yeah, so we're looking at about 3 centimeters total. Let's compare the ProTec padding to the other brands. So this right here is the 187 pad, and as you can see, the thickness of that kind of main pad is perhaps a little bit thicker on the 187s than on the ProTec. And then this top pad is definitely thicker than the D30 kind of gel that is on the ProTecs. But again, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that this pad is going to protect you more, because the density of the foam is really important, right? It's not just about the thickness. So let's also compare the ProTec to the S1, and you can see right here the S1 is significantly thicker and also has the extra padding on the inside. So the S1 pads have about 4 layers, and again, ProTec just has the 1, or the 2 layers rather. And I can't really compare anything to ProDesigned because of the fact that it's all sealed up. So I do think that this padding is about 1 inch thick, maybe even 1.5 inches. It's hard to tell, but you know, the ProTec is probably a little bit thinner, even with the, well, I think with the extra D30, it's probably thicker than the ProDesigned, but again, it's hard to really estimate since I can't take the padding out of here. All right, so let's do another run here, and we'll actually slide on them this time. So I'll come up in the deep end, and I will I'll jump off on a backside, so that way you can see how they how these feel when we're actually sliding in them. See what that's like. Okay. So first drop in on the new pads. Sliding from the top of the transition isn't a very hard impact, but it should still give a good idea of how the knee pads will fare. Whoa, I lost the board. Didn't expect that. Feel good though. They felt fine. No sign of any kind of pain. They went really good. So let's go grab the board and try another pair. So yeah, all in all, I would say the Pro-Tec's pretty good. I like these just as much as my old ones, as the drop-ins. They feel just as good, and they are a thinner pad because they have that D30 gel on the front. But yeah, these work pretty good. So let's take a look at how the ProTec pads ended up holding up during those knee slides. So you can see here that the surface of each pretty scuffed up, but it's also really, really flat, which is good because that kind of goes to show that the kneecaps themselves are pretty smooth. They're not too rounded, which is nice because if the kneecap itself has too much kind of curve to it, then your legs can get all wobbly and weird, and that's a way you could potentially hurt yourself. So I feel like the flatter surface is always a little bit better. And you can also see down in the suede down here that it did get a little scuffed up, so there was some abrasion on that part of the pad. And all in all, I think they held up really well. But honestly, I still kind of like the older ProTec pads a little bit better, those drop-in pads. And if you take a look at these old drop-ins, I mean, these I have literally done probably 100 knee slides on, and they're still in really great shape. Now, the one pad, the right-hand one, does have the chip taken out of it, but that, is after about 7 years of riding, and I had one kind of awkward fall, and that chip broke off. But you can see how the seams are still in really great shape. They haven't worn out. None of the seams have broken. I mean, it's pretty amazing that these pads have been through as much as they have, and everything is still in fantastic condition. I think that the ideal knee pad would be to take this old drop-in design and continue to make the exact same pad with a few modifications from the new one. So, for example, right here, this little tab on the back strap is really great because it's easy to grab onto. And on the new pads, they don't have that little tab, right? There's this piece that doesn't have any Velcro on it, but it's still harder to grab onto
than this one is. But there are a couple of improvements on the new pads that I think would work great if you just incorporated them into this old design. So all you have to do is take the drop-in pads, and you notice the neoprene on the drop-ins, it's kind of shredded right here around the edges. It's, yeah, a little raggy. But on the new ProTecs, they've actually sewn all the edges, which is really nice. So I think that if you put these back straps onto this design, that would be fantastic. And then if you took that D30 gel and put that into these pads, that would be perfect. So basically, this design with these back straps and this gel. If I were to rank all 4 of these pads and give them a number from 1 through 4 for whoever has the best features, the ProTec pads actually come out on top, I think, in terms of comfort and design, quality, the back straps, and the way the bottom strap is even designed. I mean, they are definitely the best pads. Now, they score the lowest on the size of the cap because the cap is very, very small on the ProTecs. And I'm not all that crazy about the top strap. It's kind of difficult to pull that one over. And the padding, again, I've scored the padding kind of low, but it's a little difficult to say because, again, I don't know how much I trust that the D30 padding really makes a big difference. So I don't know if it's better to have a thin pad with D30 or to have a thicker pad. I'm a bit on the fence about that. But as we can see, the ProTec really scores the highest. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, I really like the S1 pads as well, even though, you know, I think they're the least comfortable. And ProDesigned are still some of my favorites. I love the fact that they're made in the United States, and I think if their padding was just a little bit thicker, they would definitely be way better than anything else. So, you know, just a matter of opinion and some different scores that I decided to apply to the padding to help you judge, you know, what might be best for you. One last note, I've been pronouncing this wrong the whole time. This is not called D30. It's actually D30, which is so stupid. I mean, who puts the letter O after a number in your product name? So yeah, I'm not going back and fixing it, but it's D30, not D30. Well, thank you very much for checking out this episode of Skateboarding California. This knee pad review, and hopefully you now have a better idea of you know, the options and the brands that are out there and what might work best for you.